This anime is actually Culinary Adventure Fantasy anime. Culinary Adventure Fantasy is an anime adventure with magical fantasy, food, and cooking story that featuring comedy and a passion for exploration. Regardless, this anime has its own essence, especially when it comes to food and the experience of enjoying it. The scene composition isn't handled carelessly either. It's truly epic from the perspective of an artist or animator who sees it as a mind-blowing phenomenon. Cinematic framing in anime refers to how directors compose shots to guide the audience's eye, create emotional impact, and tell the story visually just like in live-action filmmaking. Even in this scene, you're invited to immerse yourself in what Pecorine is experiencing in the river. This is how subjective framing works, pulling you into the moment as if you're actually there. Somehow, a wide-angle shot with empty space, capturing the evening scenery like this, makes you feel the romance in Kokoro's heart as she is eating crepes while sitting side by side with Yuki. Scenes with this kind of emptiness naturally evoke a sense of longing, almost like missing a crush. In its journey, anime that combines food and adventure like this actually creates a unique healing experience with its own distinct nuances. By focusing on an enjoyable context and often being safe for all ages, these shows intentionally avoid heavy conflicts and themes of alienation. However, what's really interesting in this anime is the gag comedy they show us. Gag comedy is a form of humor that appears suddenly and unexpectedly. It actually relies on visual surprises, perfect timing, and absurd situations to quickly and easily make the audience laugh. Another example is what you saw at the start of the video. When Kokoro is in an establishment scene, introducing the world of this anime through a beautiful romantic cinematic feel. Then suddenly she finds her master getting ganged up by a bunch of crazy wolves. Another scene is when Pecorine is lost in nostalgia. Suddenly nobody's goofy voice pops up out of nowhere. That's really salty for real. However, if we go back to the beginning of the scene, including the one just mentioned, you'll surely notice how many scenes use a wide perspective that makes you expand your focus or maybe even feel like you're getting sucked into the scene. Because an establishing shot is used to introduce the world and set the visual context to expand the character's perspective and create a specific emotional impact. It gives the impression of a feeling of loneliness, which might be represented in the early scene of very wide perspective in a new world, especially with the figure of Pecorine, who adventures alone from the beginning of the scene until the middle of the story. But the moment when Yuki finds Pecorine lying down due to hunger. The interesting thing is shown when the framing of the scene constantly shifts to follow Yuki's perspective as he tries to figure out who this girl lying on the ground is. And the trigger you might not have noticed is in this very first scene where the frame captures Yuki from a low-angle hero shot, making it feel as if you're in Pecorine's position, looking up at him from the ground. We rarely discuss about subjective framing, even though this technique frequently appears in short videos and TikToks. In fact, POV videos are a perfect example of subjective framing. Perhaps the easiest example of subjective framing is during intense and emotional battles. Especially when Kokoro gets captured by the mushroom monster, the subjective framing actually represents Yuki's perspective very strongly. As he is struggling to rescue her as quickly as possible, This extreme close-up intensifies his emotions. This pulls you into Yuki's perspective, making you feel what he's experiencing in that moment. And that's how subjective framing works. However, modern anime wouldn't be complete without beautiful and mesmerizing particle effects, and this anime uses them masterfully. Of course, budget plays a crucial role in anime production, as CGI effects in a single episode can cost up to 2 million yen or around $13,000. With a total budget of around $108,000, that's a really huge sum for a single anime episode. Even the budget for anime direction and general direction is separate. But this makes it interesting to discuss the differences between direction and anime direction. Maybe we'll dive into that in a future.
やばいですね。